Hi everybody, I'm Jim Skelly and this is the Global Conversation. Before we get into looking at a couple of contemporary issues, I do want to bring to your attention the fact that we need to get very active in the study circles. So I know everybody's been on holiday. I mean, we had a break here at Juniata College. I've been gone for much of the last couple of weeks. But everybody's back on now. We're getting towards the end of the semester, and your proposals for the project for the study circle should be in by a week from tomorrow. So, let me tell you a couple of things. One, here's what we know from having offered this course and organized these kinds of circles in the past. And the first thing to know is that everybody wonders sort of who's going to take charge. Well, if you're wondering that, perhaps you should do it, okay? So what you need to do is just be proactive. If you have a good idea, take the leadership and try to make it happen. You can talk to your teaching assistant who's assigned to it. You can talk to Sadie, you can talk to Ray, you can talk to me, okay? Send me a note. Say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Don't hesitate to get very involved, okay? Because if you just sit back and wait for somebody else to do it, they may not do it, and you get way behind on the project. So you should have a proposal in at the latest by next Monday. That's a week from tomorrow. And if then you have about 4 weeks to finish the project. And it is difficult to coordinate. I mean, because people are on different time zones, etc. But please go ahead and really get involved with it. And don't expect everybody to respond. Our experience is this. There are usually one, maybe two, what we call free riders in the study circles. They just don't do anything. If you're one of them, you won't want to see your grade, okay? So, because we pay attention to this stuff, and we know how much time people are spending on the website. You know, this is a kind of, the Moodle website is sort of big brother-ish, right? We can see everything. You know, if you're checking out a cute person in another country, we can see that too. So be careful. At any rate, please get involved with the study circles and get your proposals in. We want to see them in case we see any problems with them, but also we want to see them to make sure that you're making the kind of progress you need to make, okay? So don't let it go any further. Let me see, a couple of other things. One of the things you'll be looking at in the next little while, I think, is the issue of food. Now, and one of the things I wanted to focus on this week is China. I spent last weekend, we had a wonderful conversation with Isabel Hilton, the editor of China Dialogue, which looks at China and the environment in the world. And I'll send you a link to that. But Isabel is very, very concerned about the environment in China and what the Chinese government is going to do about things. We've talked here previously about the horrific air quality in Beijing. And there is this extraordinary tension. Remember, we've talked in this class a lot about externalization of cost. Well, essentially what China is doing at one level of analysis is they are engaged in rapid economic development, and one of the ways they're doing that is by externalizing costs to the environment. In the most obvious case being the air pollution that people in Beijing now suffer, and it is high, as some of you have known. One of my colleagues here at Juniata College, Dan Cook-Huffman, went to Beijing 2 weeks ago, and he had to wear a mask every time he went out, right? And you have to worry, actually, about the particulate matter that's in the air and the danger it poses to your health. And it's kind of an immediate danger, right? So think about that and the externalization of cost, and it's not good. China is considering, according to one article I've just been reading, and I want to send you that. And part of what's happening, we think, is that China doesn't want to give up. They're worried about people's standard of living in the classic sense. Their material standard of living has improved, right, in the last decade to two, and now you have a real dilemma in China. The air quality in Beijing is just one example of it. But they're very concerned about climate change in China. A friend of mine who was at the International Climate Change talks a couple of years ago said the Chinese know very well that this could be a disaster for them, right? So you have the short-term interests of economic development tied to what may be a horrific case of trouble in the not-too-distant future. And what for those of you who've listened to Gwyn Dyer's tapes on Canadian Broadcasting Corporation about the climate wars, you'll remember that part of what he talked about was geoengineering, okay? Engineering the atmosphere, among other things, to make the Earth cool. Just the idea of it makes me a little trepidatious, I think is the word. So let me tell you a couple of things about, and more and more people are talking about this, what they're calling Plan B, putting a layer of sulfate particles, for example, to block some incoming solar radiation. Because what people are saying is, well, it looks like there's going to be at least a 4-degree centigrade amount of warming over the 1990 standard, and that's disastrous. Global emissions, according to this article that I'm reading to you, global emissions have not been declining or even slowing. In fact, global emissions are accelerating. Even the World Bank, which for years has been criticized for promoting carbon-intensive development, not what we want, by the way, now warns that we are on track for 4 degrees centigrade of warming, which would, of course, change everything. And China is vulnerable to water shortages in the north of the country, and if crop yields and food prices rise, if crop yields fall and food prices rise, it could be a political disaster. And I have to say, I would be very, very concerned about it if I was going to live more than another 20 years. And some of you will be. So I'd say start paying attention now. I'll send you this article. Another thing that has been happening in China, and you can see this is the craziness of the world that we live in. Well, over the last 2 weeks, the river that the Huangpu that goes through Shanghai, they found 16,000 dead pigs in various rivers that feed into this major river going through Shanghai. They seem to have some disease, etc. But as the writer of this one article suggests, what you have in China with increased wealth is people want more meat. And the truth is, we should be going in the other direction because we can't sustain this right now. China has a booming factory farm industry. And for those of you who have seen the film Food Inc., you will know that factory farming is not exactly the best thing for producing meat or any other kind of food that you might want to consume. So I'll send you again something on this. But in 1999, they're saying, annual meat production worldwide was around 218 million tons. By 2030, it is projected to be 376 million. And that's just according to accommodate the extra 2 billion people expected to be alive by 2050. The consequence is that we need to eat about a quarter of the meat that, on average, most of us consume. If you are American, you are consuming, somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 kilos, about 270 plus pounds of meat a year. And you can tell that some people are consuming that much because they look like they're consuming that much. At any rate, it's one of those issues. And of course, a lot of it, meat is not necessarily the best thing for your personal health, right? The protein gives you a great rush, but be careful about it. Everybody would do well to eat a lot less meat and to think more broadly, again, thinking about context and connecting the dots. One of the things that you want to do is recognize the fact that it takes somewhere between 7 and 10 quantities of grain to produce the same amount of meat. We'd do a lot better if we ate a lot less meat, and therefore other people who are not getting enough food to eat could in fact do so. In China, let me give you this piece of data. The Chinese are particularly fond of pork. The country produces and consumes half the world's pork, around 50 million tons in 2011. The average person in China eats 4 times what they ate in 1980, but still a third less than the average person in the United Kingdom. Okay, I want to think about this stuff. Think hard about it and take a look at your own consumption. Better for you if you eat more vegetables and fruits, okay, and if at all possible, organic as well. Okay, so let me just end up. There's also a very interesting. Here at Juniata, we watched some video about the tar sands project, and one of the things that's happening at this moment is that a large German company, it's a big research institute, has pulled out of the tar sands project. They've ceased involvement after a moratorium on contracts was declared last month. What they're concerned about is the damage to their reputation. When we were at the International Student Conference in France a little over a week ago, one of the things that we talked about was the ecocide initiative, right? This is the effort to make ecocide an international crime against peace. Now, one thing is to actually prosecute somebody, but as the organizers of this initiative have said, the very fact of its existence makes the heads of corporations and others pay attention to their own behavior and not necessarily exploit the environment and, of course, once again, externalize costs to the environment. The tar sands project resulted in a conviction in the mock court trial that was held to promote the ecocide initiative, the mock court trial in the Supreme Court in London. It is a disastrous environmental project, and you may want to take a look at it, okay? I'll send you a link to a story about that as well. And it is, to me, very, very interesting that this prestigious German research institute has pulled out of their involvement with the tar sands project. Okay, that's all I have for this week. Please get involved with the study circles. Don't hang about. Get in there and do something. Come up with a project that really grabs your interest. Don't let it go, okay? Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in a week.